how do we reconcile this obligation to convert people with pluralism? How do you feel how that works out with Catholic, your Catholic faith or Islam?
Not to suck up to the audience, but I'm so impressed with you cut right to the tough questions. That's a big one for you, and he's right. There's a big evangelistic tradition in both Islam and Christianity, and how do you square that with a respect for diversity?
Okay, I'm going to say that I just read you a verse that says, "Let there be no coercion in religion." You know, we can look at the extreme examples of evangelicalism, but at the same time, I mean, my husband converted to Islam. I know a lot of people are converting to Islam. I co-advise a Muslim group on my campus, and the woman has just converted to Islam out of complete pure will. Pluralism in Islam doesn't mean you convert the person. For example, if you look technically at marriage laws, in the Sharia law, by the way, Sharia law it means towards the path. It's not a set law. It has to have consensus. It has to have legal kind of consensus with people. So if you hear the word Sharia, don't be scared. But anyway, the Quran talks very specifically about who one can marry and who one cannot marry, which is interesting. So for a man, you can marry a Jew and a Christian, or a Sabian, which we don't know what that is, without conversion. For a woman, it doesn't say anything. So now women are marrying Christians and Jews and whoever. The point being is that it's not necessary in Islam to convert a Jew or a Christian, because within the Quran itself, you can freely marry people of other faith.
And just to follow up, I'm going to take this off and speak this probably clearer. I think to follow up on what Mehnaz said, similarly, I think in a sense in Christianity, I think ideally there is a call to evangelization. Certainly there is a call to invite people to become Christian. However, I think that it's exactly that, it's the invitation. And I go back again to Jesus' way of encountering people. And again, I think it really mirrored a little bit what Diana was talking about in her writings. I think, in a sense, Jesus as the person of God in flesh and blood was calling people, was inviting people, and I think that's what we're called to do. And I think Pope Francis is telling us this too. I think by concentrating on the good works of the church, he's calling people, I think, to let them speak and to let them invite people to become evangelized, to become Christian. There's an old song called "They Will Know They Are a Christian by Their Love." And I think that's probably the path to evangelization that I think Christians are called to, and I think they're most successful in that path as well.
Also, I'll add one other kind of twist to this from my sort of scholar of religion perspective. You know, it's important to recognize that every religious tradition across the board, every religious and cultural tradition is in some ways, you know, inconsistent and internally contradictory, right? There's a diversity of belief and a diversity of perspective and a diversity of emphasis within every tradition. So for sure, you're going to find some Christians and some Muslims for whom, and some Buddhists and some other people, for whom, you know, their overriding goal is to convert the world and make everyone else like them. No question. There are people like that. You're also going to find some Christians and some Muslims and Buddhists and everyone else for whom their overriding goal is to build these kinds of relationships of respect and understanding across difference that we've been talking about. And I would caution you against, you know, pointing to either one of those aspects of a tradition and saying, aha, you know, that's the real deal, that's the essence, right? So Tom and Mehnaz like may sound great, but look, there's these other Christians and Muslims trying to convert the world, and therefore that, you know, disproves what Tom and Mehnaz are saying, because every tradition is internally complex and internally diverse and sometimes internally contradictory. So again, I think it was a great question about this tension between, you know, interfaith work and evangelism, But the fact that there's that tension doesn't like disprove or you know, poo-poo either side of the tension. Any other questions? The floor is yours, guys.
Can I just say something? There's a question.
Well, he's going to work his way towards the center aisle.
I want to say something. I teach a class called Religion and Genocide, and a lot of my students come away saying, "Oh my God, religion is horrible. It's intolerant. You know, if you look at centuries-old genocides, and even today, unfortunately, ongoing genocides, you know, religion does play a role." But I want you to think about this for a second. Religion is not something that knocks on your door. It's something that we have created as a body of interpretation. So it's not as if it's just sitting there statically saying, this is what you have to do. We go to it. We create and interpret what we need from it. So in a sense, I'm giving you the freedom to decide how you want to see this vast body of sacred literature and how you want to use that in the world pluralistically. And faced with the extremism that I have in the Muslim world, so say there's 1.5 billion Muslims and a small percentage are extremists, that still gives me 10 million people. That's a lot of people, right? So how do I negotiate that in terms of being Muslim? And that's a question you all should be asking as Christians, Catholics, for yourselves.